Hello everybody, Sam Tom Miller here. My video is getting way too long, so I'm going to try to keep this one short and quick. We're talking about American Psycho. We're going to get right into it, so if you haven't seen it, spoilers and all that good stuff. American Psycho. I first saw this movie when I was a teenager. When did this come out? Hold on. Okay, so this movie came out in 2000. So we've got Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, Jared Leto. Now, those are like, big names in superhero movies that I'm a fan of. But this would have been before all of that, right? Because Bale wasn't Batman until 2005. Dafoe wasn't Green Goblin until 2002. And Leto wasn't Joker until much later. And then Morbius later after that. We've also got Reese Witherspoon, who's very well known. And Josh Lucas, who I haven't seen in much, but he was in the 2003 Hulk movie. So, a lot of actors that now I recognize. I don't remember when I first watched this, though. So, I didn't remember any of those actors being in this movie. I remembered Christian Bale, but that was about it. I remembered very little of this movie. I wanted to revisit this movie because there seems to be three main groups of people who are keeping this movie alive. And the first group are like people who genuinely think that this is a great movie. And I think that's why I watched it the first time, was because I had seen people saying that this was a great movie. Number two seems to be the cult following, where the people who enjoy the movie for what it is, even if they don't necessarily think that it's great objectively, they just really enjoy it. And number three are the memes. This movie has so many memes that have come out of it for something that, in my perspective, it's never been a super famous, super well-known movie, but it spawned so many memes. So I decided to give it another shot. And like I said, I didn't remember much of it. Pretty much the business card scene was all I really remembered. So right away, we've got this narration. And I don't, by default, hate narration in movies. This just seems really odd to me. Who is he talking to? I guess it's us, the audience, but I don't know. It just confused me more than anything else. This is not a big plot point or anything, but at one point the character wears a collared shirt where the collar is a different color than the rest of the shirt. I hate those shirts. I hate them so much. Carrie Elwes wears one in Saw also. They just bother me so much. Now, some of them, the cuffs are also a different color. They're the same color as the collar. And this one, not so. The cuffs were the same color as the shirt, but that collar was a different color. I don't know why. I just hate those shirts. Not important at all, but I wrote it down. So then at one point I wrote down, is he supposed to be pathetic? And I think the answer is yes, right? Because, we don't want to be like this guy, because he's a sadistic murderer who's losing his grip on reality. But, he certainly thinks his life is enviable. And I guess because he's telling the story, the movie at times seems like his life should be enviable, but I'm just my house is a mess. And sometimes people don't like it, but then I see this guy's apartment where it's totally spotless and clean, and I'm just yeah, I'll take my mess over your insane level of spotlessness, right? That seems like a human being doesn't live there. Obviously he goes in depth about his routine. I forget at what point I wrote that line down. He's got the different avenues that he takes for having his relationships with women, which is if he was truly successful, you'd think that he wouldn't have to pay for it. But yeah, just because of how the movie's presented, I was kind of back and forth on, is he supposed to look successful? Other than, you've got the fact that neither him nor his friends ever actually do any work. They're just always in the office and trying to flaunt their money. And I guess that's the point is the consumerism, right? That's what everything online says, is it's a satire of consumerism, which I'm pretty stupid, so I don't exactly know what that means. But I guess that's the point, right? Is that they're all so obsessed with these fine restaurants and the food that they eat and having the reservations and their business cards and what apartment they live in and their haircut and their clothes and their glasses, and nobody actually knows or cares about the person, right? It's all just the superficial stuff, right? I guess that's the point. In which case, yes, he would be pretty pathetic for putting all of that first. But like I said, just the presentation of this is odd to me. Then we get the business card scene. That was like the only part I remembered. And I think this is why, or a big part of why, when I first watched this, I was just like, this movie just is not for me. I didn't have business cards back then, but I do now. And they are brightly colored. And there's got graphics that are designed to catch people's attention, and it's like, I don't get it, and maybe I'm not supposed to get it, right? Because they're all horrible people that I don't. But like, I'm just like, those business cards are boring. I want my business cards to be fun and exciting and engaging. So maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe I'm just the wrong audience. And then he starts talking in his narrations about, I don't remember what language he uses, but he's basically addressing the fact that he's insane. He's losing his grip on reality. And I just wrote down, do insane people know that they're insane? I don't know. But it seems like, at least in most movies, they always think that, no, you know, none of the rest of you understand. You don't see what I'm seeing. You don't get what I get. You don't know what I know, right? They always seem to think that they have a higher understanding of reality than everybody else. And here, he knows that he's losing his sanity. And I just don't know if that's a thing or not. Not that it really matters. So I was just curious about it. Then I wrote down a couple quotes where he's talking about Huey Lewis in the news. And the quotes are, I really didn't understand any of their earlier work. It was too artsy and too intellectual. And, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with this film. And I don't know if those lines were intentionally put in there, like, to be that, like, as a meta reference. Like, hey, that's what this movie is. But, like, I just don't get this movie. I don't hate it. I don't think it's poorly done. And I don't think the people that like it are stupid. I just don't get it. There's not much enjoyable for me to watch. It's disturbing, and it's, you know, whatever. But like, I don't know. I guess I don't like following the villain, right? Most movies you follow the hero and the villain comes in, but like, when we're following the villain and we're supposed to see things from his perspective, and I'm just like, I just don't care, though. So why would I be invested in this movie? So this movie is just not for me. Over my head. I don't get it. Don't run naked with a chainsaw. Don't need to say more about that. Does no one else live in this building? So as he's running around naked with a chainsaw, running and screaming and shouting, and this girl that he's chasing is also running and screaming and shouting. He's naked. She's scantily clad. Not scantily clad, but she's in a little nightie. Blood everywhere. And, like, no one else comes out or says anything or does anything. And we'll come back to that in just a second. The line, I need to return some videotapes. Or I believe I was returning some videotapes. Was that a thing that people said when this movie came out in 2000? I would have been 10. So, was that just like an excuse that people made when they didn't want to come up with another excuse? Or is that just something that he says? It's like his go-to excuse, so he doesn't have to keep track of all of his lies? Because then at another point, when Willem Dafoe asks him what he was doing, he said, I believe I was returning some videotapes. So is it just one of those things where he always says that? So if he has to come up with an alibi, people will have heard him say that he had to return videotapes. So then when he says he was returning videotapes, people can corroborate that. Am I way overthinking this line? But it said like 3 times. I just don't know what's going on with that. But then we get to the ending, and going back to does no one else live in this building? I've said this before. I do not like movies where you get to the end and it's just like, maybe none of it was real. Maybe none of it happened. I think movies can do that concept well if it's done throughout the movie, and that's the main issue that the character is having, is struggling to find out what's real and what's not. But when it's just done for the audience, or it's just thrown in at the end, it feels incredibly lazy to me. So we get the ending. Did any of it happen? Who knows? He's not. There's no conclusion to the story. The movie just ends, and I find that incredibly unsatisfying. And maybe that's the point. But I don't understand why you would enjoy that. So I'm gonna try to keep this video short, like I said. So I'm not gonna ramble on too much. But those are my thoughts on American Psycho. Not for me. I don't get it. I don't disagree with anyone who likes it. Like what you want to like. That's fine. But not for me. I thought maybe I was just too young to understand before, and now I'd be able to get it more. Not so. This one's not for me. But let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.